In this video, I'm going to be showing you all what gear I use to shape my guitar tone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Joe Giancini. Let's get started. What we're going to first start off with is the audio interface. Now, the audio interface is pretty much an external sound card that's going to allow you to hook up your guitar and record into your computer. I've been using a Focusrite Scarlett for as long as I can remember. I started on the first generation Scarlett. I now have a third generation that has 4 inputs. I've never had an issue with the Scarlett, and I think they're very well made. The preamps on them are transparent. It's not going to color your guitar tone. There really isn't much more to say about it. So onto the recording software. I use Mixcraft, and ever since I bought it, I just keep using it. I mean, it's very user-friendly, good interface, and it's got a ton of features, and it's gotten way better since I started to use it. Constantly being updated, good customer support, at least in my experience. And one of the great things about it is it has a ton of virtual instruments. Now, I was looking into another DAW when I was looking into Mixcraft, I believe. I think I was looking into a few. Reaper was one of them. I didn't choose Reaper because it had no virtual instruments. You know, I'm used to using fake instruments or sampled instruments, whether I keep them or not, to sketch ideas. And, you know, with a software like Reaper, which apparently is very good, I can't do that if I don't have any virtual instruments. So Mixcraft had a lot of usable ones too. Some of them I just used to sketch, and then I'll use something that I bought or something that I downloaded that's better. But overall, the virtual instruments are super helpful. One last key point about Mixcraft I want to add, that's where I add all of the modulated effects. So like your phasers, flangers, chorus, effects like that. I don't use pedals. Once the guitar is recorded, then I'll add them digitally inside of Mixcraft. That's the recording software that I use. Okay, onto the guitars. I really only use 2. I have a Schecter Omen Extreme, which is a 6-string. It's coil splitting. I've been using this since the very beginning. I really like it. It's only $450, very budget friendly, and I think it's a good bang for your buck because it sounds really good. I also have a 7-string Ibanez. I don't remember the model number off the top of my head. That's another really good guitar that I have. $500. Sounds really good. You know, I've used it on my 2 most recent songs. I like it. People dive really deep into getting expensive gear. I really don't think you need expensive gear. I think you do need to spend a little bit of money, but you don't have to buy top-of-the-line stuff to get great-sounding recordings and great-sounding guitar tone. Okay, so onto my guitar pedals. Right here, this is the first one. This is a newer one. It's electro-harmonix silencer. This is a noise gate pedal, and what this is going to do is mute unwanted amp noise. That's the easiest way to describe it if you're not familiar with what a noise gate does. It's pretty much going to cut off the signal and mute everything until the guitar is playing at a certain volume. And you choose that based on the threshold, this knob here. And this knob right here, it's going to determine how quick does the noise go away once the guitar is no longer passing the threshold that you set. Then you've also got the reduction knob. I mean, I keep it set all the way down. This is going to determine how quiet it makes, you know, the reduction. And another cool thing about this is there's 4 1/4-inch spots. And you got your input, your output, send and return. Send and return are for your amp. This is what's going to help mute your amp when you're... This will mute your amp when your guitar is not playing past that threshold. So, my amp isn't really that loud. My entire signal chain is not that loud. So what I do, and I read this in the manual, you could use the send to split the signal. And now what I've been doing more recently I've been sending that dry guitar signal, other than what the gate is doing to it, directly into the interface. And if for some reason the guitar tone I'm getting from my regular amp I don't like, or I want to try a different amp, I can use that dry signal and plug it into an amp sim if I really wanted to. So that's really cool. And very briefly, I'm going to play with this noise gate. One of you on Instagram was very curious about this pedal, so I definitely want to show you all how it does sound and how it works. Overall, the silencer is a really good pedal. In that demonstration, I cranked the gain all the way up in the metal zone just to demonstrate, what the gate is doing. The gate would have been even more effective if I took advantage of the send and the return. I didn't do it because I typically don't utilize it because, like I said previously, my noise in the signal chain really isn't that loud. Now, the one thing I did notice with this is depending on how you tweak the knobs and what distortion you're using, it's going to react differently based on the setup you're using. One setting might work for one distortion, the other might not work as well, and you might be getting some weird tail end cutoff. That's the one thing you want to really be aware of with this pedal, and probably all the other noise gate pedals. And for $68, this is kind of a steal when dealing with amp noise. Now, there's another type of pedal to deal with amp noise and distortion noise, and that's a noise reduction pedal. Those are usually a lot more expensive, and honestly, some of them mess with your tone, and some of them have the capacity to mess with your tone, and they're usually a lot more expensive than a noise gate pedal. So the silencer is a really great pedal. Okay, so the next and final pedal is the Wazacraft Boss Metal Zone. I was using the Metal Zone for a while, and then they came out with this version of the Metal Zone, which, in my opinion, is way, 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 way better. They even, added an additional voicing knob, which gives you more tone controls. If you can't tell, there's a ton of tone shaping knobs on this, and this is why I like the pedal so much, because if you're following me on social media, I'm always messing around with sound design and guitar sound design, obviously, as well. I gravitated towards this pedal because I like having my own sound, and with all these knobs, you really could develop your own kind of sound. You could also develop some really bad sounds, but if you take the time and you really work on this pedal and you really learn how to use it, you can get some pretty cool sounding sounds. On top of all these knobs, the switch, a trend that was happening with the Metal Zone about 2 years ago was taking this and plugging it directly into the effects loop. What that's going to do is it kind of makes it sound not as harsh, it's got a darker sound, so you've pretty much got 2 additional voicings. So you've got about 4 voicings with this technically, and you got all these tone shaping knobs. This pedal is awesome, and this is the sound of breaking the relapse, and I don't think I will ever stop using this. Okay, so onto the guitar amp. I've been using the Orange Micro Dark pretty much this entire year. For a while, I was using a Roland Cube amp, and I outgrew that. I was actually getting some ground issues, I think, so it's not worth taking to a store. So I bought the Orange Micro Dark, and I was very, very satisfied with it. One of the big reasons was it had a built-in cabinet simulator. That's how I've been recording my guitars for pretty much ever. I mean, rarely I'll use an amp sim. Once in a blue moon, if somebody records a track for me, I'll put their dry guitar track into it. Amp sim that I like, that kind of sounds like what I would typically do with the Orange amp anyway. I really liked how it had a built-in cabinet simulator. There's actually a bigger version of this amp, and I was tempted to get it. First of all, it was more expensive. That was only about $200 with tax. But the other thing is it didn't have a built-in cabinet simulator, and the way I was recording the guitar, I still kind of do it now, is I use the built-in cabinet simulators. A lot of people don't like them, but with the Metal Zone, like I showed you before, that has so many tone shaping capabilities. I was able to turn these built-in cabinet simulators into something that sounds really good. I mean, listen for yourself. That was with using the built-in cabinet simulator on that Orange Micro Dark. It sounds really good to me, but I was having some issues where it did sound a bit harsh, and I was having to have to do some stuff in post after, I recorded the guitar. So I got what is the last thing in my signal chain. So the last thing in my signal chain is the Torpedo Captor. It's kind of like an external analog cabinet simulator, but what it really is and why I really bought it is it's a load box. Now, if you're familiar with tube amps, you probably know that you can't just run a tube amp without it being plugged into the speaker. Otherwise, bad things can happen to your amp. So what that does, it simulates a speaker. It pretty much tricks the amp into thinking that it's a real speaker. And from there, you could plug it into your interface using their built-in analog cabinet simulator, or you can bypass it and just have the raw amp sound. And then you could digitally add a cabinet simulator. I like using the built-in analog cabinet simulator. I've been doing it so long like that, I just got used to using it. And that's the sound that I like. I really don't like using amp simulators. I don't like using the digital cabinet simulators, although sometimes, you know, they are good and they sound good. But just having that one analog cabinet simulator, that's one less thing that I have to think about. I know what it sounds like. I like the sound of it. I don't have to think about siphoning through a bunch of cabinets. That's what I use. And back to the Metal Zone, if you saw all those knobs and all the different voicings that you can get out of it, that's a lot to think about. And having this analog cabinet simulator that I like just how it is, again, one less thing I have to worry about. And it just makes the process way more smoother. So technically, that's the end of all the gear that I have. I do have studio monitors, as you can see. I don't think you necessarily need them. In the early days of recording, I was just using a pair of flat sounding open back headphones. But at the end of the day, you kind of use what you have. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you all liked it. If you did like it, please give it a like, leave a comment below. I look forward to making more videos. I'm planning on making a video on how I actually record my guitar, so be on the lookout for that, and thanks again.